Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Medical Monday.
Welcome back.
Today we're going to be going over muscle spasms.
Muscle spasms.
Yes, they're oftentimes referred to as cramps or Charlie horse,
Yep.
but they're very painful. And as you can see with this runner, his muscle is cramped or it's contracted into a position that's very, very painful.
There is a significant difference between those two legs.
Yes.
And that's not uncommon when we talk about extreme athletes going far distances, getting towards the end of some type of extreme event. You know, their body is pushed to the limits, and sometimes it can become depleted of what's required to allow that muscle to work properly. So it is very
definitely common. So we see that in patients as far as athletes, that at the end of their activity, meaning they've depleted what's required to make that muscle contract and relax, or we see it just at nighttime. They just become awakened because they have not ingested enough of the chemicals that's needed to contract and relax their muscle, and their body at nighttime now has woken them up with a very painful Charlie horse.
Yes, absolutely. Because our bodies recover at night. A lot of people experience a lot more pain towards the end of the day or the end of their work shift, because that's when our body starts to ramp up the proper hormones to actually recover when we sleep. And so typically this actually happens more at night when we talk about, you know, the average person, the working population, a lot of the weekend warriors, I like to call them, because they push through the week and then they're working out very extensively throughout the weekend. So yes, absolutely. The big thing is when we talk about a Charlie horse or a muscle cramp, you know, it is literally caused by the muscle. Yep. Like it's the muscles themselves that cause this to happen.
The Library of Congress noted that there's about 640 all the way up to 850 different muscles, because just kind of how they classify them. But either which way you look at it, that is a lot of different options for you to have a cramp. And this model here doesn't have hardly any of them shown. So there's multiple opportunities if your body's not having enough nutrition to contract and relax those muscles and you suffer from a cramp.
Yes, that is correct. And there's no rhyme or reason specifically as to what muscle or why that muscle is cramping. It's really just a matter of where the body needs to get that nutrition or where that nutrition is depleted. And we have different layers, like an onion. We have different layers of muscle. We have more superficial muscles that are up on top, which is what this is a picture of. And then they go deeper and deeper and deeper and more specific to actually the different joints or the different movements for each section of our body. So it gets very complex.
There's a lot of muscles there.
A lot. 650 to 840, you said.
Yeah.
That is a lot of muscles.
A lot of muscles.
That's a lot of. Oh, Lonnie, you stuck a picture of yourself in there.
I don't have that many muscles. Trust me, that's not me. But when we look at the muscle itself, it's layers, and it breaks down into large muscles all the way down to the microscopic level, as you can see. Dr. Gabby, explain to us what we're actually looking at here.
Yes, so actually one of my favorite analogies for this is like a fiber optic cable. You can see they're huge sometimes, or even a little smaller, but inside that are different little smaller components, and inside those are smaller components. And that's exactly what we're looking at here with the muscle. This itself is an actual muscle group. So like my bicep, or like, you know, my gun here. So with that, inside that muscle are littler sections, and they're called a muscle fiber. All right. And inside that muscle fiber, it goes even further, and it's called a sarcomere. And that sarcomere goes even farther, and it's called a myofibril. All right. And so it just keeps going and going and going. Now, when we get to the myofibrils, I would describe this as more of a 2D type effect. And there's parts of it that when they engage, they contract and grab each other. As you can see here, they've got like little teeth, and then so they contract. And then what happens is another effect happens, and it relaxes. And so it actually opens back up and lengthens essentially. So when it tightens or contracts, it pulls and gets tighter and more compact. And then when it relaxes, it lengthens and stretches back out and becomes relaxed. So there's a lot. It's actually a very simple concept, but it's very complex in the different parts, how it breaks down and how it works, which is one of the reasons we wanted to talk about it, because it's so common and there's a lot to it.
But it's very simple that this is a muscle fiber here. What contracts it is electrolytes.
Electrolytes, literally.
Some of them are positive, some of them are negative. The bottom line is, to contract the muscle, there's an exchange. Also, to relax the muscle, there needs to be an exchange. So that tells you have to have those electrolytes. Otherwise, the exchange doesn't occur and the muscle doesn't contract or doesn't relax.
And this is a relaxed muscle.
Yep.
All right. And so you can see all of the different electrolytes that exist to make it happen. And then what happens when we contract the muscle is, as you can go to the next slide, it contracts. Yep. Right? And so it gets shorter, and you can see how all of those electrolytes have actually moved around into its subsequent areas in order to make that contraction happen. When we have a Charlie horse, we're stuck in this state. And what that means is the muscle just says, I don't have anything to relax with. And so we get stuck with that Charlie horse or that irritation that wakes us up at night. And so really one of the best things to do to support that is to make sure that you do your best to stay hydrated.
Hydrated, yes.
Yes.
That's where we get most of our electrolytes, but also you need to be able to have a proper diet. When we're talking about electrolytes, what are the main ones?
So we have 4 main ones that we talk about when we talk about muscle spasms. We talk about sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. There are 4 very, very important electrolytes that are needed to contract the muscle and then relax the muscle. That allows it to honestly become tight or shorter, and then actually becomes flaccid or lengthened. It's literally a mechanism that requires this fuel.
And without those, that's why your muscle has dysfunction, and that's when you get the Charlie horse or the cramp. Yeah.
Yep.
Gatorade was actually developed in 1950-ish from University of Florida, because University of Florida is hot and it's humid down there. Their football players were sweating, their athletes were getting cramps constantly, and they couldn't train. They wanted to focus on training, so they needed to get those electrolytes back into their system. So they actually developed Gatorade back in a time when sugar wasn't a concern. So Gatorade's not always recommended nowadays, but they've progressed. And now they have some very low sugar forms of Gatorade, which are basically just a bunch of electrolytes to help keep you from getting a muscle cramp.
Yeah. Lonnie, do you remember when Gatorade first came out?
About 1950.
How old were you then?
I wasn't that old.
Oh, all right. Sorry.
Not at all. Not at all.
So I do want to give Gatorade some props. Typically, I recommend to actually drink diluted Gatorade if you're having electrolyte or muscle cramp issues. With that, you mentioned the sugar. They've actually come out with something called G2, which is a lower sugar amount of Gatorade. And you can actually see this in the picture. This is all the same flavor, but you can see that's very muggy, I guess, murky.
Cloudy.
And you can kind of see through that. It's a little bit more see-through. So that's because of the sugar content in it. So G2 is a great option. I still recommend to dilute it. One of the things that I prefer and recommend more so is Pedialyte. Pedialyte is actually a saltier beverage than it is sweet, although they do have flavored options.
But this is mainly for peds, though.
It is designed for pediatrics. You are correct. It is more designed because kids actually have a tendency to become dehydrated more efficiently, whether it because they have some type of illness of diarrhea or throwing up, but they also sometimes just don't like to drink things. So this is a great way to keep them hydrated. But again, anyone can actually utilize Pedialyte. It is a phenomenal resource, especially if one of my big things is construction workers, people that do a lot of yard work, a lot of the extreme athletes. This is a phenomenal electrolyte replenisher that's very efficient and our body absorbs easily. And one of my favorite is the Pedia Pops, because I can kind of trick my kids into thinking it's actually like a frozen popsicle. Like a frozen popsicle. It is a frozen popsicle, but it's a salty frozen popsicle.
So a little bit healthier version. It is diluted more than Gatorade as far as the amount of electrolytes. So, but a great option and without the sugar. That's
correct. It is, and it's flavored. And they actually have an unflavored option. So then you can mix it with your own juice or just drink a salty drink. So if you're prone to having cramps, or you're going to be doing activities such as, I know I got to mow my yard today, I need to hydrate and drink either some diluted Gatorade or some Pedialyte to prepare for that, because I don't want to get a cramp. But say I get a cramp, what are some of the things I can do to help get this to go away? Well, one of my favorite and most inexpensive things you can come across is a frozen bag of vegetables. Our favorite one is frozen peas. So frozen peas, it's very movable. It's very easy to put into different areas of the body. So frozen peas is a great option, or just an ice pack in general. One of my favorite things in life is multi-purpose. Can I use this for more than one thing? And so we actually utilize in the office an ice pack that can also be heated and used as a heating pad as well. So that is what I took a picture of here to make sure that, we do have ice packs here in the office, but I also know that Amazon has great options and you can buy them at the store very easily.
And that frozen bag of peas you can also heat up and use as a heating pad.
If you need a heating pad. And then when you're done, you have a snack.
A small snack.
A healthy snack.
Yeah. Heat, ice, either which one to help relax that muscle. What you want to do with the heat is help increase the blood flow, because it's not always that you're missing these electrolytes throughout your entire body. It's just that they cannot get them into that specific area. because of other chemicals in the way.
Yeah.
Our body goes through a process when we're exercising, and there's other chemicals that get in the way. So with good blood flow, we can get rid of those and free up the area to receive the electrolyte so that muscle can uncramp itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I love heating pads in the sense that they actually help to dilate the blood vessels. So when we talk about blood flow, you know, a lot of times we have a natural state that our blood vessels exist in. And what happens is sometimes they constrict just like our muscles do. And then sometimes they dilate or open. And so heating pads actually increase blood flow. And so they actually will dilate those blood vessels so that we get more blood flow there to get the nutrition needed to calm it down.
Perfect. And some other things you can do at home, a very inexpensive, they do have some expensive ones out there, but a very inexpensive personal massager.
Yes.
Great option, multiple different tips, depending on where your pain and where your cramp is. But one thing to note on these, as far as we talked about the heat, it's always very important, and it's still very inexpensive to get a personal one that offers heat, not just the massage.
Yeah. Because if you can, again, multi-purpose, I don't like it. What else can I do with this? And so, yes, make sure that if you do get a personal massager, it does have some form of therapeutic heat associated with it.
Perfect. But if you've done everything at your house, as far as you've drinking all the Gatorade that you can drink, and you're still having muscle cramps, you've tried to work it out, and you've used hot and cold, you need some help. You can always try multiple different options, even locally throughout our community. One good one is a massage.
Yes, massage therapists are phenomenal. They are professionally trained to know how to work the muscle tissue and the different muscle groups. You know, you can do more of like an effleurage massage, which is a fancy way of saying like to help with fluid flow.
Is that an effleurage massage?
No, I think this is more of like a deep tissue type massage to somebody.
Patient complaint massage.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not sure who's having.
She's probably not a masseuse.
Yeah. I'm not sure who's having more fun here, but he looks like he's having a blast. Like
definitely.
Yes, absolutely. So
like she said, there's multiple kinds, different types, different abilities of the massage therapist through their training to help relax those muscles.
Yes, and it's a phenomenal. It's a way to support those muscles and those tissues through the process of healing after a muscle cramp.
Yep. But then, of course, if you're still having muscle cramps, you need to go see. Typically, you'll go to your primary care. Great options there. When you do see your primary care, thankfully today we have some very low side effect muscle relaxers. Flexeril, baclofen are very common. They don't have very many side effects other than they may make you a little bit drowsy. So you always want to be a little bit careful if we're driving with those medications.
And on occasion, we actually utilize those resources.
If you need to.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the acute issues, we can provide that definitely to help speed the process along so they can get better therapies. But if you don't want to go down that route of medications, one of the things that I really love here that we can help patients with are trigger point injections.
Yes,
this is a natural way to relax that muscle. Just melt it like butter. It's very simple. It's a Tramil is what I utilize. It's 13 different botanicals. It's a concoction to help naturally relax those muscles. And of course, with any injection, nobody likes a needle, even though it's the smallest needle made.
It is
I also provide numbing medication in there so that the patient doesn't have discomfort through this procedure.
Oh, sorry, I didn't interrupt you, but this is actually one of the procedures that I utilize as a professional when I can't get adjusted by Dr. Hewlett regularly. Sometimes our schedules just don't allow it, and this is a lot, not so much easier, but I am able to actually get some relief from my irritations and old injuries when I'm not able to get adjusted. So this is a phenomenal tool to help with that. Yes.
Really easy tool to help. But it's an adjunct therapy. A lot of the therapies should be considered adjunct therapy because it's not a singular therapy. It's not a one size fits all.
It is not.
Oftentimes it requires a couple of different components to get the best results.
Correct.
And some of the other things that you complement this with, Dr. Gabby.
Yes. The percussor tool. Yes, we have a phenomenal tool called a percussor. And what it actually allows me to do is increase blood flow to the specific muscle groups and also break up scar tissue at the same time. Blood flow allows for better healing. And the percussor tool is actually a phenomenal way for me to utilize not just my hands, but also, a mechanical advantage there. And it actually has different tips so that, in the beginning, when somebody's really acute, not able to get around easily, I can actually very gently work the tissue. And then as we get a little farther along, I can use different types of tips with different types of hardness to really dig into those muscles. So I know we had that funny picture of the massage therapist and the guy making the funny face.
Yep.
So I can actually do that for you.
If you want to make that face, she can help you with it.
Yeah.
But no, it's a great because you have different tips, different options as far as how you can gently get that muscle to relax And then once it is relaxed, then you can use a different tip to actually break up that scar tissue. Because that's one of the things that's causing the problem. It's blocking the flow of these electrolytes in and out of the muscles, so that you're having more and more cramps.
And one of the things we actually haven't hit on is our muscles are actually pumps. I don't think we've talked about that yet. And so the electrolytes coming and going, our muscles move and allow that pumping action to happen. Our muscles actually help with blood flow. And so, all of this is designed to increase flow and to allow healing and to really calm down those muscles so that we can get the movement we need to have the better stretching during our exercises, to have the better movement and the better function throughout the day.
Other than that, we have some great options that I enjoy is the decompression chairs. This is a multi-purpose machine that can help in multiple ways, but how does it specifically help with muscle spasms?
So specifically with muscle spasms, we have different settings available. So one, it actually helps to stretch the back muscles. So this is very specific to someone of the thighs and the lower leg or the upper legs, and then also the low back and spine itself. So it actually has a stretching component, and we can move in different directions. And then one of my favorite, and I know you enjoy it as well, is that it actually has a heating aspect we can turn on, and then also the vibration aspect. So we can vibrate it, which is going to be a similar effect to massage, stimulate the tissue, get increased blood flow. We heat it, so we get the dilation of the blood vessels that we talked about, and then we stretch it at the same time. So in regards to when we talk about therapeutic benefit, when we combine this with the trigger point injections, with the percussor tool, with a lot of the other therapies we do in the office focused on different goals for different patients. I mean, when we talk about muscle spasms, this is the done deal. This takes care of it. It calms it down. It does it very efficiently. And I mean, most of the time patients walk out of here much more comfortable than when they walked in.
This is always a great option as far as patient comes in, they've been trimming trees and now they got this massive spasm in their back. It's like, great, let's, we can pinpoint and work on that. But first, let's globally relax everything so that you'll receive your treatments better. So the decompression chairs are phenomenal for that. So you can just relax everything, and then you can get into specifics as far as what we're going to do to specifically treat an area. Great tool to use.
Yes, it is a phenomenal tool. And we've hit on a lot of things when we talk about extreme athletes. We talk about weekend warriors. Everybody gets muscle spasms. Everybody, whether it be grandpa confined to a wheelchair, or Sally Sue, who's my daughter is almost 4 and she's woken up with a Charlie horse before. So this affects everyone in different ways, whether you be somebody that sits at a desk all day and you're in the same position, because what that does when you're in the same position, it means that muscle's literally in the same state all day long. And so sometimes you can kind of feel stuck, or you can feel tense because those muscles are just used to being stuck there from being on the phone all the time or from driving all the time. There's a lot of different aspects when we talk about muscle spasms and how they can affect us. And so, it's not just necessarily a one type of scenario that this happens. It's really a lot of people that it affects.
Unfortunately, but it happens in active people, which is a good thing. We want you to be active, but if you've got muscle spasms, try some of those tips at home. Make sure you're drinking fluids. Make sure, you have a personal massage tool available if you're prone to cramps, and always eat and drink before activities such as going outside. But there's other options. We've talked about those as far as if you can't take care of it yourself, what you need to do. We hope you don't get muscle spasms, but at least this lets you know what a muscle spasm is and some other options if you have them.
And one of the best things they can do is continue to watch Medical Monday, because we always have great tips on how to take care of things.
And with that, we will see you next Monday.
All right. Bye, everybody.